Good afternoon. I've got an apology to make because I've been getting something wrong. My channel's called Gary Keep It Simple, and I'm Gary, which is fine, and I try and keep it simple. But where things have gone slightly wrong is I forgot, and I made the same mistake that all the other channels made, which is simple. I forgot to tell you what I meant when I said something. If you've been watching my videos on tapes, you'll know that one of the charts I put up is the harmonic distortions. And I made the mistake of thinking that you'd all know that harmonic distortion was a bad thing and that it was there and therefore, the smaller it was, the better. But I didn't actually explain to anybody why it was a bad thing. So I thought I'd make this video just so you could see. Anyway, let's get stuck into it. I'll try and explain it as we go along and I'll try and make it simple. It's not a simple subject. We'll see how we get on. Anyway, let's get stuck in. If you're a fan of cassette decks and cassettes and things in general, or just generally hi-fi, you need to know this. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what's what and why it's important. If you've got a TIAC 1200 or a Nakamichi Dragon or anything in between, Toshiba, Akai, any of those sort of things, you need to know this. This is one of those diagrams. This is for the Tudor tape that we've just done a review on. And you can see there's several spikes. There's a 1 kilohertz, a 3 kilohertz, 5 kilohertz, 7 kilohertz, 9 kilohertz, 11 kilohertz, 13 kilohertz, 15 kilohertz, all the way from 1 to 15. Okay, so I can hear you saying, well, so what does that mean then? If you're telling me it's so important, what's that actually mean? Well, I'll tell you. What it is you've recorded a single pure tone, which sounds like this. And you're playing back something that's not a single pure tone. It should look like this, if it's a pure tone. And what you've got is this. So, what does that actually sound like? What does that mean? Well, I'll show you. This is what an oscilloscope trace would look like, but I'm using Audacity because it's easier to get it into the computer. And this is a pure 1 kilohertz tone. In fact, it's the tone you heard earlier on. And this is the spectrum analysis trace of that tone. And this is the playback of that tone from a cassette deck on the Tudor tape. The furry bits here are inherent in tape because that's the hiss. But these spikes are signal. But they're signal that you didn't record. So where did it come from? Well, I'll tell you, it came from, in this case, the tape. We've established this is 1 kilohertz. This is a 3 kilohertz, the size of that spectrum. As you can hear, that's very loud. So what I've done here is I've put the two signals together, the 1 kilohertz and 3 kilohertz, to produce the same pattern as on the tape. This is the result, and you can see there's a very much straighter edge, and the tops are flat. Well, they've got a bit of a dip in them, but it's approaching flat. And this is what it sounds like. As you can hear, that's totally different sound, and that is the sound that you're getting out of your tape because you've got harmonic distortion. It also occurs if you've got clipping and limiting in other parts of the system, but specifically here we're talking about tapes and the charts that I put up. That's why they're important. And just to let you think on a bit, if you put in any tone into the tape, you will get third harmonic distortion. And harmonic distortion. If you put in a 2K tone, you're going to get all the frequencies up from there. If you put in a half K tone, you're going to get all the odd frequencies from 500 hertz upwards. And that's the problem. And what's more, they add up. So when you've got a result like that Tudor tape, where you've got such terrible, terrible harmonic distortion, it means that all the high frequencies all add together and you end up with a really nasty, horrible sound. And the low frequencies, well, they don't sound too bad because there's not much they can do with them. They sort of they're just there. Harmonic distortion on any system is important, but specifically on tapes, it's very important, and that's how it's done. I could cover this subject in more depth, but I didn't think it was worth going into it now. If there are any other questions, please put them in the comments below. If you found any value in this, please then like, subscribe, spread it around, and I'll catch you another time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.